Welcome back to Gun&ShotTV. My name's Chris, and today I was going to be talking about Korean Glock mags. There's a whole lot of different Glock mags floating around online. I've had really good luck with Korean ones, manufactured by KCI. You might wonder why Koreans are making Glock mags. Supposedly, South Korea had a contract to buy a bunch of Glocks from Glock, and there's different theories or different stories. Some say that they told Glock that as part of the contract, they wanted the ability to make their own magazines, and Glock sold them the manufacturing machinery. There's also, some conjecture that maybe they just figured out a way to counterfeit the mags themselves. Either way, sometimes you can find them for about $5, which for me is a pretty good deal. I wouldn't use them for self-defense or anything like that. I'd only use them as range or USPSA competition mags, stuff like that, where it doesn't really matter if the magazine does fall apart on you. I've had very good luck with mine. I've got 5 here that I've used for about 3-4 years, I think, for competition and stuff. And the main reason I got them was I really don't like dropping full mags on concrete if they're factory Glock mags, because I really don't want to ruin my base plates. Now, I've used these, like I said, for quite a few years, and they're scarred up and dinged up, but they still work pretty well. So with that in mind, this Black Friday, Centerfire Systems had a deal on Korean Glock mags. They had 2 33-rounders, 2 17-rounders, and 6 15-rounders for a Glock 19. So I thought that was a pretty good deal. It was like $50, and figured I'd grab another one. Mainly, I just wanted the Glock 19 mags, but the other mags I figured for the price, about $5 a mag, it was worth taking a gamble on the rest of them. Now, the one thing I have noticed is the springs are a little bit different. There's a couple differences with how the mags are set up and all that stuff. So first, we'll cover the differences. This is a factory Glock magazine. Now, as you can see, it has a cutout on the right side here. Now, this is an older magazine. It's got the ambidextrous cut out for the older style ambidextrous system that kind of went away real fast. And it's got a cut for a right-hand mag release. This is a Korean model. So this is the older style, like a Gen 3 magazine, which may lead some credence to the fact that maybe the Koreans did get some old Glock mag stamping machinery. Another difference you'll see is the Korean mags, for some reason, have these little dots. I'm guessing where the plastic filled the mold or something. That is not a feature on stock Glock magazines, which kind of calls into question whether they were actual Glock machinery. Now, so if you have a Gen 4, you will not be able to use it in a left-hand configuration. As you can see with the Gen 4s, there's actually a double notch for that ambidextrous system. So that's something to be aware of. If you're going to buy these, they're going to only work in right-hand configuration for a Gen 4 gun. But other than that, pretty decent. I said I've had very good service from these. Now, I did do a couple little tweaks and tune-up things before I've ever shot with these. And so I'm going to show you what I do when I get a new Korean Glock mag to make sure it runs well out of the box. So you'll get them in these paper envelopes. Cut that off. As you can see, you've got your magazine. They're pretty close to Glock clone. Like I said, they got these little dots and stuff. The one thing you will see is they have a lot of flashing, where there's a little seam of plastic that usually on a Glock mag gets ground off or isn't there to begin with. So that's one thing you'll want to address. And then a lot of people say they have weak springs. I've found that the springs are very stiff, much like a Glock magazine when they're new. They do get a little bit weaker than a Glock mag after some use, but initially they're just as stiff as a factory Glock spring. So, like I said, there's a couple things I do to these to make sure they'll run really well right out of the box. First thing I do is I take a hobby knife. You could also just use a carton opener or some sandpaper, and I go around and take a factory Glock magazine and compare the surfaces and make sure that there isn't any flashing anywhere that's mission critical. Now, you could just use the mag and the flashing will probably wear off. But I find it's quickest to just trim it with a carton opener or a hobby knife, like I said. So to do that, you'll probably want to take the mag apart. I found the easiest way to get Glock magazines apart is to either use like an Allen key like this, or a nail. I took a nail and ground the point off and kind of squared it. All you really need to do is push that in there and then pull as hard as you can until that pops. Because not only is that pin holding it, there's little wings on the side of the magazine. Those lock it up too. So, now we have our mag in pieces. Look for any burrs or any flashing or anything on the actual follower. Assuming you don't see any there, this one actually looks pretty good. I don't see anything I would change. You want to go through and trim all these little bits and pieces, and whatever you can see, there's little bits of flashing kind of sticking out there. I'm peeling off with my finger. So, that's something you'll want to address. And then the other thing I found is these mags are a little bit rougher on the inside, especially when they're new. A little bit stiffer to load, and they kind of feel a little funky initially. Now, after they wear in, it's not a big deal. But I find with almost all my mags, a quick shot of this dry lube really makes it work much better. Of course, because I'm making a video, my can seems to be out. But either way, you're going to lube up the inside. Put it back together. The follower goes in like so. This plate has the little pin sticking downwards. Now your mag is back together. Now at this stage, theoretically it should be good to use. It's still going to be a bear to load, even with the Glock loading tool. So what I like to do, and as you can see I've done it on these ones, after I lube them up and clean up all the burrs and everything, I'll put the maximum amount of rounds in it, let them sit for a week or two. At that point, the spring kind of takes a little bit less tension to load and unload, and from there on, they seem to work very well. There you have it, my thoughts on Korean KCI brand Glock magazines. There's some other ones floating around. You'll see Con, a couple different stamps. I think some of those are KCI spin-offs or subsidiaries. Some are different. I've even seen some like Shearer, which I think are American-made Glock clone magazines. I've pretty much gotten almost every Glock magazine I've ever touched, even beaters that someone said, oh, that doesn't work, to work fine with a little bit of dry lube and, going through and cutting the flashing off, and even just using a little bit, they tend to break in. Like I said, I've had awesome luck with the Glock 19 copy KCI mags, so I wouldn't be afraid of those. And the cleanup and the lube and stuff, I do that on pretty much all my mags, so I can't say that it necessarily even had an effect, because I've never tried to shoot one without doing that. But either way, the ones that I've been using for about 3-4 years have performed flawlessly, and I'm dropping them loaded on concrete and doing all kinds of stuff. I've never had any issues in competition use with these mags. So for $5 a mag, a little bit of cleanup and stuff, it's definitely, for me, worth the money. Now, whether or not, you want to make that decision, you can always try out the new Magpul mags, or, even just stick with factory Glock mags. I definitely stick with factory Glock mags for anything involving self-defense. When I carry my gun and any of that stuff, it's always factory Glock mags. But, like I said, for competition or range use, I think these Korean ones are pretty good value for about $5 a mag. For Gun&ShotTV, this is Chris saying thanks for watching and have a great day.